Meet the man who broke the fourth wall before he even had a name. The mercenary who turned cancer into a punchline. The Merc with a mouth who went from comic book joke to cultural icon, but not without a body count, a few lawsuits, and enough chimichanga grease to drown a small country. His isn't just the story of Wade Wilson. This is the story of how Marvel's most unstable anti-hero clawed his way out of editorial purgatory, hijacked Hollywood, and proved that even in a universe of gods and geniuses, the loudest voice wins. The story of Deadpool begins not with a bang, but with a shrug. In the early 90s, Marvel was throwing ideas at the wall to see what would stick. The X-Men universe was expanding rapidly, and editors needed fresh antagonists for their mutant teams. Enter Rob Liefeld, a young artist with a knack for creating characters who looked like they'd been designed by a teenager hopped up on Mountain Dew and action movies. His initial design for Deadpool was essentially Deathstroke from Teen Titans, a masked mercenary with guns and swords, but with one crucial difference: this guy wouldn't shut up. When Deadpool first appeared in New Mutants #98 in 1991, he was just another throwaway villain. A hired gun with a healing factor and a smart mouth, created by Fabian Nicieza and Rob Liefeld as cannon fodder for Cable's debut story. Nobody expected him to last. His early appearances painted him as a generic mercenary with some superficial quirks. He healed fast, he joked around, and he wore a ridiculous costume. But there was no depth, no real personality beyond wacky bad guy. The turning point came in 1993 when Deadpool got his first mini-series. Suddenly, writers started playing with his potential. They amped up the humor, made his healing factor more extreme, and most importantly, they began experimenting with his self-awareness. In Deadpool, The Circle Chase, we saw glimpses of the character we'd come to know, breaking the fourth wall, making pop culture references, and generally behaving like someone who knew he was in a comic book. But the real transformation happened in 1997 when Joe Kelly took over writing duties. Kelly understood something crucial about Deadpool, that beneath all the jokes and violence, there needed to be pathos. He introduced the idea that Wade's healing factor was constantly fighting off his cancer, leaving him in perpetual agony beneath his scarred skin. He gave Deadpool hallucinations of B. Arthur, yes, really as his moral compass. Most importantly, he established that Deadpool's humor was a coping mechanism for a man who couldn't die, couldn't find peace, and was painfully aware of his own fictional nature. This era also saw Deadpool's supporting cast take shape. Blind Al, his elderly hostage/roommate. Weasel, his weapon supplier and only friend. These relationships gave depth to what could have been a one-note character, showing that even a mercenary with no moral compass needed some human connection. By the end of the 90s, Deadpool had evolved from a Deathstroke knockoff to something truly unique in comics, a character who could make you laugh on one page and break your heart on the next. As the new millennium dawned, Deadpool was no longer just another X-Men villain. He was becoming a phenomenon. The 2000s would see Wade Wilson transform from cult favorite to one of Marvel's most unpredictable and compelling characters. This was the era when Deadpool truly found his voice, and that voice was equal parts hilarious and horrifying. The early 2000s saw Deadpool bouncing between team-ups and solo adventures, with writers increasingly embracing his meta nature. In 2004, the game-changing Cable and Deadpool series paired him with his perfect foil, the grim, serious time-traveling mutant Cable. This odd couple dynamic allowed writers to explore Deadpool's contradictions in new ways. Here was a character who could deliver a fart joke one moment and then have a profound existential crisis the next. The series established that Deadpool wasn't just crazy, he was perhaps the only Marvel character who truly understood the nature of his reality. This period also saw Deadpool's mythos expand dramatically. We learned more about the Weapon X program that gave him his powers. His relationships with other Marvel characters deepened, particularly his bizarre friendship/rivalry with Wolverine. Writers began playing with format, entire issues told through Deadpool's internal monologue, or stories where he interacted with the comic book captions themselves. The fourth wall wasn't just being broken anymore, it was being demolished, rebuilt, and then demolished again for fun. Perhaps the most significant development was Deadpool's evolving moral code. He was still a mercenary, still violent, but writers began showing moments of genuine heroism. He'd take jobs protecting the innocent. He'd show unexpected kindness to other outcasts. This complexity made him more than just a joke character. It made him unpredictable in the best way. You never knew if this issue would feature Deadpool saving an orphanage or trying to assassinate the Pope for laughs. The 2000s also saw Deadpool's first major forays outside comics. He appeared in video games, animated series, and of course, the infamous X-Men Origins Wolverine movie where they made the catastrophic decision to sew his mouth shut. But even these missteps couldn't slow his momentum. By the end of the decade, Deadpool had gone from D-list to A-list, proving that in an era of increasingly serious superheroes, there was still room for a lunatic in a red suit who refused to play by anyone's rules. If the 2000s were Deadpool's coming-of-age story, the 2010s were his coronation as a pop culture icon. This was the decade where Wade Wilson didn't just break into the mainstream, he kicked down the door, shot the bouncer, and then charged everyone cover to watch him do it again. The comic side saw Deadpool reach new heights of popularity and experimentation. Marvel launched multiple ongoing series, miniseries, and special events centered around their mercenary. Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe 2012 was a watershed moment, a darkly hilarious exploration of what would happen if Wade truly embraced his meta-nature and decided to eliminate all fictional characters. This was followed by equally bold experiments like Deadpool vs. Carnage and Deadpool's Secret Wars, each pushing the boundaries of what a Deadpool story could be. But the real story was happening in Hollywood. After the disaster of his X-Men Origins portrayal, Ryan Reynolds became Deadpool's real-life champion. In a move worthy of Wade himself, Reynolds leaked test footage online to prove there was demand for a proper Deadpool movie. The gambit worked, and 2016's Deadpool became a cultural phenomenon. It wasn't just successful, it was revolutionary, proving that R-rated superhero films could be both critically acclaimed and commercially viable. The sequel doubled down on everything that made the first film work, while introducing iconic elements like Cable and Domino. But more importantly, these films understood something crucial about Deadpool, that beneath all the meta-humor and violence, there needed to be heart. The movies gave us a Wade Wilson who wasn't just funny, but tragic, a man whose jokes masked deep pain, whose healing factor couldn't fix his scars, and who ultimately just wanted to be loved despite being, in his own words, physically repulsive. As the decade closed, Deadpool's influence was undeniable. He'd gone from comic relief to leading man, from niche favorite to household name. The Fox/Disney merger raised questions about his future in the MCU, but if there's one thing Deadpool has proven over 30 years, it's that he always finds a way to survive and thrive against all odds. Whether in comics, movies, or whatever medium comes next, Wade Wilson's particular brand of chaotic energy seems destined to keep breaking rules, breaking walls, and breaking expectations for years to come. Deadpool's journey from throwaway villain to cultural icon is unlike any other in comics. In an industry that often takes itself too seriously, he remains a glorious anomaly, a character who can deliver a dick joke one moment and a profound meditation on mortality the next. His evolution reflects a changing relationship with superheroes themselves, from unquestioned idols to florid, complex figures we can laugh with and at. What makes Deadpool truly special isn't just his humor or his violence, but his humanity. Beneath all the meta-commentary and cartoonish bloodshed, he's ultimately a story about coping with pain, with trauma, with the absurdity of existence itself. His healing factor might prevent him from dying, but it's his humor that keeps him truly alive. In many ways, Deadpool is the perfect superhero for our era. In a universe of gods and geniuses, super soldiers and sorcerers, there will always be a place for a florid, foul-mouthed mercenary who reminds us that sometimes the only way to deal with life's absurdities is to laugh at them, and maybe stab them a little. Definitely stab them. The final joke, of course, is that Deadpool, the character nobody wanted, the mistake, the afterthought, has become one of comics' most enduring and beloved figures. In breaking all the rules, he rewrote them. In refusing to be taken seriously, he became impossible to ignore. And in embracing his own ridiculousness, he became something truly extraordinary. Now, if you'll excuse him, he's got a fourth wall to rebuild, just so he can break it again.